if you grow up, an example would be someone grows up in a town with a culture and it may be a family with a heritage, and there's a certain way of being, right? Certain limiting beliefs we touched on earlier, but you are the way you are. You have a perspective based on every single second of your life, which makes perfect sense, and it's okay to feel that way. But based on that perspective, you then see things as good or bad, better or worse, different from you. Okay, so I grew up in Western New Jersey, right? And if I, growing up this whole way and had just kind of stayed in this bubble for the sake of this conversation, and then one day went to Newark Airport, which is right outside New York City. It's one of the biggest airports in the world. We have people from all over the world, all sorts of different cultures, all sorts of different walks of life. And I were to go there and I would say, I see people dressing differently. I see people speaking differently. I see people behaving differently, the way they eat, the way they talk, the way they, all sorts of different things. And I could immediately, and human nature would be to, whether I know it, like it or not, start judging them as good or bad based on my perspective growing up in this bubble in Western New Jersey. And so I'm going to say, I would never dress that way. I would never talk that way. I would never eat that way. I would never treat somebody else that way. Like all these different things, you're judging them. By the way, real quick, I'll just put a small side note. It doesn't mean there's certain behaviors that don't have consequences, right? There is always the importance of serving others, connecting with others, and being kind, right? And if you behave certain ways, there are going to be certain consequences and results. But that's none of my business, what the hell someone else is, right? So when I start, instead of judging them as good or bad, I recognize that I'm judging them as good or bad, better me or worse than me. And instead just go, I wonder what their life is like. Like what did every single second of their life has been like to get to this point where they are exactly behaving the way they are right now when I'm judging them. And when you start to do that, you've now gone from judgment to curiosity, you've shifted your energy, and you've also introduced empathy, understanding, curiosity to a space where now we can connect, and we start to realize that we're not separate anyway, we're all just one. And had I been born that person's parents and lived every single second of their life up until that moment, had every experience, good, bad, ugly, every fear, every reaction to all of those experiences, and come to be who they are in that moment, when I ran into them at Newark Airport, I would literally be the exact same person that they are. And so for me to judge them anyway makes no sense whatsoever, because it literally is not, it's not mates, right? It's not, it doesn't make any sense because I don't have their perspective. And when we start to step into this every single day, now we take that back to ourselves. And we start to say that, why am I judging myself as good or bad? Anybody who lived every single second of my life would be exactly who I am right now. And so now that's okay. My past doesn't have to equal my future. I can decide I can take the time to look at who I've become in this moment, decide whether it's serving me or not, decide whether it's who I want to be in the now. And if it's not, start being curious as to what can I do about that? Who would I rather be? Start writing it down. Once you get clarity and really ask yourself these questions. And the other piece to curiosity is when you start utilizing it, your brain is a machine that will answer questions that you ask it. So ask yourself empowering questions that serve your purpose. The more you start to do that, the more you start to respond in a way that serves you and others. And once you have clarity on, because you've had that curiosity, you have the answers more, you start stepping into that every single day. And when you start to remind yourself that this is a choice, that I can do this every single day of my life, and I don't have to be anything that anybody else wants me to be. Literally, this is a huge planet, billions of people, billions of opportunities, now more than ever, where you're over across the ocean and you and I are having this amazing conversation. You can do things like this every day. You can connect with people all over the world. Start pursuing who you want to be and people like that, and your life will unfold the way you want it to.